Boom, boom. Beep, beep. Boop, boop.
Bruh.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Shout out to everyone out there. You already know, live stream takes a minute for the whole thing to kick in. Make sure that we're live. Make sure everybody, gets a notification, makes it, to the live stream, and we'll get started in a second. Today's question is, what is it like to drive in Merida, Yucatan, Mexico? It's a very important question. I actually get this question asked a lot more than you would think. The original question, was actually, what is it like to drive in Mexico? But I don't know. Mexico's a huge country. Mexico has, 32 states. It's, just like the USA has 50 states. And if someone were to ask me, what is it like to drive in the USA? Yeah, there are a few, similarities, across the country as to how people drive. But the reality is that people drive very differently, in Miami, as to Rhode Island, to Seattle, Denver, LA, Las Vegas, Omaha, Nebraska, Houston, Texas, anywhere. They all drive very differently. Chicago, I can go on and on. And again, there are some, normalities, when it comes to, how I say it's like painting the USA with a broad picture. But the same thing with Mexico. The reality is that, yeah, there are some similarities. We're going to be talking about that with how people drive all around Mexico. But, how people drive in this region. All right, the Yucatan is very particular to the rest of the country. So again, just like Mexico City is, probably one of the worst places to drive in the whole country. And out here, not so much. Out here, again, depends on who you talk to. There's a lot of people that, are scared to drive out here, that don't like to drive out here. They find it, very unnerving to drive out here. But again, it really depends on who you ask. I myself, was born and raised and grew up driving in Miami, Florida, which for anyone out there that knows the area, it's crazy. So I'm just used to that and driving in those conditions. So when I would drive in other parts of the country, in other parts of the USA, it was mild in comparison to Miami. Sure, there was a bunch of places that were pretty bad, but never as bad. For example, LA might have had more traffic, more area to cover, but the people were not as aggressive as on the East Coast. You can't compare, the aggressivity, and especially when you're going up and down, the coast, everywhere from New York all the way to Miami. So again, same thing with Mexico. There are some parts of Mexico that are very aggressive. There's some parts of Mexico where, when you're driving through Mexico, you're going to have, you got to be careful. People trying to pull you over that are not cops, and I could go on and on. But not every part. I'm just saying, very, very small areas, or certain areas in Mexico at the moment. But when you're driving through the Yucatan, when you're driving through this whole area, this whole state and everything out here, it is very mild, to put it lightly. Not only is it very safe, to drive, all around the state and the surrounding areas, but when it comes to traffic, in the city, when it comes to like the actual city, the city itself has, about 1 million inhabitants. And the traffic is just mild, in comparison to like other big cities that I've come from, or other cities of the same size. And the reality is that because of the way that the city has been growing, a lot of the traffic, like we're talking about just traffic at the moment, but anyways, a lot of the traffic has been, kind of like delegated or relegated to just a certain area of the city, which is mostly the north. Because the more south you go, the more poor the neighborhoods, in a sense, the less traffic there is. The more, there are different parts of the city, so the older this part of the city, the less traffic you're going to see per se, when it comes to just, regular, normal day-to-day traffic, okay? But the more modern the area of the city, the more traffic you're going to see. And I'm talking about just traffic, more on a every, how do I say this, on an hourly basis. Because Of course, there's always going to be traffic during rush hour, whether it's in the morning or at night, and especially during times, when there's kids leaving school, entering school, so there's going to be, extra traffic during certain periods, peaks, and valleys and things like that. But the reality is that, there are certain regions, like for example, if it's say it's 5 o'clock, 5:30 p.m., 6 p.m., and I'm driving around my neighborhood or anywhere out here on the southwest, southeast, south part of Merida, I'm just gonna see kind of regular 5 o'clock, 5:30 traffic. People coming home, people getting, or whatever. But when I'm in the north, my God, basically, any time of day, but especially during those peak hours, anything from 5 to 6 to 7 p.m., 8 p.m., same thing in the morning, for, morning commute. It's insane. Because I remember earlier in the year, Christian had a mural she was painting in the north of the city, and I had to drive up there every day, for months. We were driving every morning to take her, and then I was going to pick her up. For a good while, up until we decided, hey, I think it's probably just easier to take the bus. Oh, no, I forgot. Yeah, I think actually we had a situation where she had to take the bus, and she's like, hey, I actually got home quicker. It was more comfortable for the most part to come on the bus than to actually just, have you come pick me up in traffic. And so we kind of settled on that, towards the end of her mural, she just started coming on public transportation. But the reality is that, yeah, it was just going to the north. Oh, my God. And the traffic wasn't horrible. It was like Seattle traffic, like very, mild and slow traffic, not aggressive and, what's the word? Road ragey traffic like I'm used to. But it was still traffic, traffic to the point where, it's just like annoying. And I've already been living here many years without having to really drive in traffic, deal with the commute, deal with any of that. And my God, it was not fun. It was not pretty. In fact, sometimes, we're coming back from certain areas, whether it's in the north or what have you. And, it's in certain times of the morning or the afternoon. And we see just the regular people with their daily commute. And I'm like, oh my God, it just reminds me of back home. So just going back to just the driving, the reality is that, again, depends on where you come from. If you're coming from small town America, small town Canada, then yes, you're probably going to be very, how do I say this, very stressed out with the driving in Mexico. But if you come from certain areas like, I don't know, like I said, Miami, Oakland, Rhode Island, New York, certain areas, Houston, yeah, you're going to come out here to this part of the country, Merida, and it's not going to be a problem. You know what I mean? I was a little hesitant at first driving out here, but, once you kind of get used to it, we're going to go through all that. It's really not that big of a deal. It's actually pretty, I like it. I prefer it. It's nice to drive around in a country in which you are not constantly vigilant that there's a police officer, looking out for people doing bad things. You know what I mean? Whether they're hiding behind a tree with a radar gun, or a regular gun, right? Depends, but just to say a radar gun, or they have unnecessary checkpoints, just basically to extort you. Oh, wait, they do have checkpoints to extort you here, but it's a little different. It's actually a lot better, than what you're going to be dealing with in the USA. But for the most part, it is so much better to drive out here in Merida than it is in the USA. For many reasons, and in Mexico in general, because you're not dealing with, a lot of unnecessary things that you are going to be dealing with, in the USA. But, again, when you go kind of, counter to that, yeah, there are going to be other things you're going to be dealing with in Mexico that you're not going to be dealing with in the USA. But look, the reality is that in this part of Mexico, in Merida, the drivers out here, they remind me more of the drivers in Seattle, which were just very passive-aggressive and slow, extremely slow. And so the truck that I have a 1988, okay? 1988 behemoth of a truck, a V8, okay? That thing is slow. Okay, sure. You know what I mean? It's it's a big, powerful truck, but it's a slow truck. Let's not get into it. This is the reality of it. But anyways, long story short, many times I'm driving around and I am literally, just driving faster than everybody else. This is all I'm saying. Within the speed limit, but just to show you how slow people drive out here, and Yeah, no, I mean, I'm driving around many people. In fact, a lot of times you see it in the videos as I record them, how I drive. And I'm not going over the speed limit at all, not even anywhere close. My truck, it's not that powerful, but just to show you how the people drive out here. So most of the time, you know what I mean, it's more of a passive aggressive driver, a slow driver, okay? Very patient driver, a driver that doesn't really give a crap, you know, about anyone or any of its surroundings. So really, you got to be driving in Merida, in the Yucatan, very defensively, because you don't know. You just have no idea what the driver is doing. You know, we like to call it in the Mexican out here, que están queseando, que están, you know, comiendo mierda, you know, whatever. But basically what it means is that they're just, you know, eating shit. You know, they're not paying attention. You know, they're you know. So because of all that, you know what I mean? Like, you got to drive extremely defensively, you know, and maybe, you know, if you drive a little aggressively, it's not a bad thing. Now, listen, there's a lot of people moving to this region from other parts of Mexico, and they're coming with their aggressive forms of driving, and you see it more and more every day. But again, for the typical American coming from a big city, it ain't a big thing. You know what I mean? Now, I myself personally probably would not drive in Mexico City or drive in many other cities of Mexico. Like, I would not drive in Oaxaca. Are you kidding me? I mean, it was sketchy just walking around the old city in Oaxaca because how people drive out there. They come to a four-way stop and nobody stops. You know, and there's other parts of Mexico where they're even worse when it comes to all that. But in this part, you know, again, you know, it's just a different driving experience. So the more difficult things when it comes to driving in this region, to tell you the truth, is when you are in basically, okay, in one region of the city. So when you are in the region of the center of the city, the centro. Jeez, can't even speak the Spanish. By the way, shout out to Greg is unknown. Greg is unknown out there. Shout out to Greg with the $10 super chat. Sorry, I forgot. I got, you know, was doing my own thing there. But shout out to you. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And again, shout out to Alex, you know, which is who asked me this question today and wanted me to talk about. Again, you know, they wanted me to really talk about driving in Mexico, but, you know, I told them, look, I only have real experience with driving in Merida, so I'm going to focus on that, and that's what we agreed on. So shout out to Alex out there as well. But anyways, like I said, I would not drive in Oaxaca. You know, I would not rent a car or drive in Oaxaca or Mexico City or any of these places. Are you kidding me? You know, in many parts of, first of all, Mexico City is like, you know, you're driving in New York City. No thanks. That's number one. And then in other parts of it's like you're driving in Mumbai, India. You know, it's like, what? Huh? What? Yeah, it's pretty insane, okay, like, to tell you the truth. But it's awesome. You know, if you're in a taxi, if you're taking public transportation, be careful. If you're doing certain things like that, you'll be all right. But in this part of the country, in this part of the world, this part of Mexico, you know, a lot of people do drive, you know, because again, it's a city that's in the middle of the jungle and we're in the middle of nowhere. So a lot of people, they just drive, you know what I mean? And that's just the reality of it. Now, with that being said, we're in the middle of nowhere. So it's very rural out here. So you're going to find in many areas, especially when you go out to the villages and the pueblos, many people don't even have a license, nor did they need one, nor are they going to get one. So you got to remember, you know, you probably are more well versed when it comes to, you know, driving and traffic signals and all this other stuff, as opposed to someone in the village that, you know, just learned how to drive by just getting behind a car, you know, that kind of thing. Oh, shout out to Greg out there. Oh my God, with the $20. Thank you so much. Oh my God, making it rain in there. Hold on. Where's anyways, making it rain. Thank you, Greg. Greg is unknown. And see, like, I was looking at it, it's like I so known. I thought it was like I was reading like what's it called? Geez, I don't know why I'm blanking out on things today. I need some more coffee. That's what it is. I've been waking up early, by the way, guys. You know, so I'm actually starting to wake up extremely early, doing a bunch of things out here. So it's just starting to get used to that early schedule. Anyways, shout out to Greg out there. But yeah, when I was looking at your name on screen really quickly, it reminded me of Sun Tzu, Art of War, you know? So, but anyway, shout out to you. Ram Charger is unknown. That's right. Have you seen Hialeah? Oh my God, Hialeah, bro. I'm from Hialeah, bro. Are you kidding me, bro? Agua, fango y factoría. Ya tú sabes, 305 all day. You know what I mean? No, yeah, dude. I'm from Hialeah, dog. I grew up in Hialeah. I drove and I learned how to drive in Hialeah. Yeah, don't get me started. So, I mean, yeah, bro. You know what I mean? Are you kidding me? Everyone in where I come from, same thing. No license, and it's everyone from Latino America living in Miami, you know? Like, just doing whatever the hell they want. So, I mean, to me, that's why driving in the rest of the country is no big deal. But I'm going to tell you right now, when you go to certain parts of Mexico, oye, olvídate, bro. They beat Hialeah. They beat Miami all day. Like, especially Mexico City in certain areas. Oh, no way. No way. I wouldn't. Because I'm just scared I'm going to kill somebody, run somebody over or something. I don't know. It's just so, you know what I mean? It's just so many people, so much traffic, so much going on. It is, it can be very overwhelming, okay? But anyways, when it comes to this region, which is Merida, the most difficult region, you know, to really drive in Merida is in downtown, in its centro. And why is that? Well, because downtown and centro was built like, I don't know, 500 years ago, when there was no cars. Everything was on a horse and buggy. Everybody was walking around. So the way the streets are, they're very small, they're very stretchy. By the way, not just Merida, but basically any old city in Mexico, which is all of them, any old downtown area, which is all of them. Again, you go to Oaxaca, you go to any one of these places, and like, you know, they're downtown, you know, they're places that have been there 500 years, maybe longer. But anyways, we're just talking about like the post-colonial, which is, you know, when, you know, a lot of the Spanish came out here, built up the streets, very similar to what they had in Europe. And with that being said, again, no cars. So a lot of the streets, a lot of the infrastructure, a lot of all that is built, you know, with horses and people in mind, as opposed to automobiles. And they never fixed the infrastructure because, you know, it's like a 500-year-old city, you know, just like in Europe. So just like in Europe, it's very difficult to drive in a lot of areas. It's the same out here. So for me, the most difficult, you know, the areas that I hate driving in the most is in the downtown area. That's it. You know what I mean? It's simply because of how difficult it is to move around, because you're in a sea of people. The buildings are so close to the corner of the street, so when you're going to make a turn, it makes it very difficult. Thank God that most of the streets are one way. I know some people complain about that, but this is why, is to help, you know, avoid accidents and things like that. But the reality is that, by the way, shout out to Richard, shout out to Teresa out there with the $5 and the $2 super chat. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Teresa. Shout out to both of you guys. Yeah. But anywho, but yeah, long story short, you know what I mean? The reality is that, you know, those areas are just the most difficult and the most stressful. But when you go outside of the centro, there are still areas, you know what I mean, that are like that. So even in my neighborhood, you know, I live in a neighborhood, again, you know, the neighborhoods that are basically west, east, and south of the center are the oldest parts of the city. So, and where I live, even though I am not in the center, I'm still in one of the older parts of the city. You know, this neighborhood was, you know, built in like the 40s or whatever, you know. So with that being said, it's the same thing with a lot of the architecture, the streets, the way, you know, how driving is, you know, how all that is out here. But it's less, you know, the further away you get from its centro, the easier it is to drive. And the reality is that, you know, when you figure it out very quickly. When you're driving in Merida, you know, there are a bunch of main roads, you know, main arteries, you know, roads that are going to just take you, you know, that don't have too many stop signs or no stop signs, you know, or just a few traffic lights, you know, but they just kind of go and keep the traffic flowing. And a lot of people always go on those streets, and, you know, that's where you might see a little traffic, and it might be a little faster than your average, you know, street. But the reality is that, you know, the city is kind of built on a grid. And, you know, most of the time, you know, that's why you see me even driving just through the neighborhoods. And I'll go parallel to one of these main streets or highways so that I can just drive at my own pace and not drive with any traffic at all. And I'm just driving through the neighborhoods. So the reality is that, let's say that you just moved out here very recently, you're still trying to get used to driving out here, and, you know, you're a little hesitant and scared and all that. That's totally normal. You can drive by just taking a lot of the side streets, just going around. And again, just put your final destination, your destination on Google Maps, all right? And then just drive in the general direction of where you're going, and trust me, you'll get there, okay? So the Google will always constantly correct until you get there, and it's really not that difficult to get lost. In fact, what I do a lot of times is that I just don't use Google Maps at all, and I just try to figure it out on my own and try to figure it out, whether when I'm going there and when I'm coming back, and I only use Google Maps for just trying to get to the exact location once, we're getting close. But the reason is so that it'll make it a lot easier, yeah, it looks familiar, Greg. Shout out to you, brother. Nice name. I love it. But it just makes it a lot easier for you to eventually, figure out the neighborhoods and drive out here and just know the lay of the land, because it's basically on a grid. The city is not that big. Again, I come from, major areas, Like, again, whether it's Miami, South Florida area, Los Angeles, metropolitan area, all these areas that are humongous. And even to me back in those areas, eventually once you're driving around enough, you figure it out. So imagine in a small little city of just 1 million people. And, again, once you go outside the city, it's villages and jungle and the beaches and things like that. So it's not like it's a huge metropolitan area at all. So the reality is that the more you drive, the more you figure out the lay of the land, the more comfortable you get with driving. And eventually you start driving like me, which you might be driving a little bit more aggressive. Again, very defensively. I always tell everybody to drive defensively, and if you don't know what that means, just look into it. But just always, what it means is that you got to always drive like you don't know what the other drivers are doing. You can never, ever trust any other driver on the road. Doesn't matter what. Because anything could happen. It could just be an accident. They might lose a wheel. It has nothing to do with even the driver sometimes, okay? But you just got to always assume the dangers of the other drivers. So always drive defensively, as if anything could happen at any moment in time, and always be on the defensive and you'll be fine. And sometimes you have to drive a little aggressive, meaning sometimes you're driving behind a slow vehicle that might be dangerous because of what they're carrying on the vehicle. So you might need to aggressively pass it at the appropriate time to get around that vehicle, to make sure that, again, you don't have a final destination moment and, something falls off that vehicle and squashes you or what have you. Again, one of the benefits of driving the truck that I drive, I'm one of the biggest vehicles on the road most of the time. Now, the negative is that it's more difficult for me to go to El Centro and to go to certain areas because of how big my vehicle is. That it's just difficult to get around and to squeeze in through certain areas and yada, yada, yada. But the advantage is that I don't ever, it's very rare that I have to worry about other vehicles, trying to play chicken with me or trying to, it's very different, because when I'm driving or I'm in other vehicles, smaller vehicles, I can see how drivers can be a little bit more aggressive or a little bit, again, not knowing how to drive. I don't know what else to say, but it just seems that when I'm driving the truck, people are just paying a lot more attention to me and they're more careful with me. But when, for example, when I'm confronted with another truck or a bus or whatever, yes, I totally see how other drivers, how they, see me. They see me as a smaller car, so they're not as scared of me. But long story short, a lot has to do with the size of your vehicle too. The bigger the size of your vehicle, the more respect you're going to get on the road. The smaller your vehicle, the less respect you're going to have on the road. So that also goes for, again, some people want to drive motorcycles and scooters and even the little tuk-tuks. You can buy a tuk-tuk. In order to buy and drive a tuk-tuk, you still need a license. But at least, motorcycles and the scooters and electric bicycles, you got to be very careful because you will not get any respect on the road at all. And you have to be very, very careful with that as well. Because when I used to be on my bike, it was a lot more dangerous, for sure. Because, again, there's absolutely no respect, for other people that are on their bikes, even though they're around a lot. Now, the thing is, again, it varies. You know what I mean? Like, if you're seeing like an old person, you're seeing somebody that's like, man, they ride that bike every single day to work, in the neighborhood, whatever. They're gonna, be more wary of their surroundings when they're, driving the bicycle within, the city, within the area, as opposed to let's say you're in the north of the city, you're in other parts of the city, and you're seeing these, fitness guys, the ones that are, with their very, very fancy bicycles, fancy outfit, fancy everything, they're going out there to go biking. Listen, those are the same ones that we have in the USA, and they're going to want to demand, respect on the road, but we're in Mexico, and, well, it's very different. They can run your ass over, and what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? So, it's a whole thing, you know what I mean? But, you'll see, you know what I mean? Because again, you can see it yourself when you're watching a lot of the videos of me driving around, how things are, how traffic patterns are, how certain people, depending on the vehicle that they're driving, how they drive, and so on and so. Remember, there's people driving those tricycles, just all kinds of people. There's all kinds of traffic and all kinds of things on the road constantly. So you have to be driving extremely defensively, all right, in order for you to really, be able to survive out here. I don't know what else to say. So, all right, let me read some comments real quick, all right? Teresa is like, as I say about slow drivers not going anywhere and in no hurry to get there, here in Shreveport, getting on the freeway is too risking your life. It's also hotter than Merida. Yeah, so it's kind of like the same thing here, you know what I mean? Like even most of the drivers in Merida, most of the drivers in the region, even a lot of them, they're learning to drive for the first time because again, there's just so many changes that are happening to the people, to the region, to the area, to everything that again, it's forcing a lot of people to even have to drive. Like for example, one of Christian's like really good friends, she finally, had to get like a job. Well, she had a job, but like a job that was far away from where she worked. For where she lives. And now she had the deal for the first time ever, the reality that now she has to commute to work. Where before, she could just take the bus, maybe walk to work, whatever. But now she lives so far away that she has to drive to work and drive back. And now all of a sudden, there's so many Mexicans. First of all, not just drive to work and drive back, but literally learn how to drive and literally get a car in order for her to do that. So again, this is very typical to a lot of people living in the area as well. So plus, all these people that are moving here, not just from, other countries, but from other regions of Mexico in which, they drive extremely aggressive and they drive very differently. And, the reality is that, the one thing that you're going to see the most of, if you follow a lot of the local news out here, the one thing you're going to see the most of out here are just accidents. No crime. Of course you're going to see tiny crime, all kinds of things, anything, there's a million people here. Things are going to happen. But the reality is that you're going to see, on the news, more like accidents, just traffic accidents, whether they're small, minor, or very big, like speeding or running someone over on a bicycle, on a motorcycle, whatever. You're going to see a lot more of that than you're going to see, someone getting robbed, or whatever, So that's a reality too. So let me see. All right, let me read some more comments. Chris says, I thought the traffic in Merida was fine compared to driving in Boston. Yeah, exactly. No, compared to Boston, this is a cakewalk. Are you kidding me? Yeah, so yes, you're 100% correct. So that's what I was saying earlier, depending on where you come from. If you're coming from small town America, if you're coming from Shreveport, Louisiana, certain areas, yeah, it might be the same or more intimidating to drive out here. But if you're coming from Boston, LA, Miami, whatever, this ain't nothing driving out here. This ain't no thing driving out here. So yes, 100%. But yeah, no, trust me. I know the upper, what is it like? Sorry, I know the upper northeast. You know what I mean? And again, Boston, New York, and all those regions up there, Rhode Island. They're the worst, man. They're the worst. And remember, and a lot of them come to Miami. So imagine, not only do we have the horrible drivers that come from all Latin America, no driver's license, no nothing, but then we get everybody else from the East Coast, from Philadelphia, New York, Boston, you name it, and they're coming out there. Oh God, and it's just like I could go on and on. It's hell. If you learn how to drive in Miami, you could drive everywhere, anywhere. That's a fact. But yeah, negative, huge negative with my truck is it's a gas hog. Jesus. Speaking of gas hog, we got to definitely work on the gasoline situation because yeah. Anyways, yeah, what's up, Greg. Gotta figure that out. But anyways, all right. Talk to you later, guys. I'm sorry. I'm just talking to Greg in the chat. Shout out to Greg for all the donations. Shout out to Greg for helping out with everything he helps out. Okay, he helps a lot. He's another producer to the show, I guess you could say. So shout out to him. All right, so I'll give him a. Yeah, Alien says, yeah, it's a lot better to walk than it is to drive in Mexico. I agree. Pedro says, got to be aggressive like driving in Los Angeles. Yeah, exactly. And Los Angeles was not aggressive to me. I mean, the only thing about Los Angeles I hated was just that it's so many people, so much traffic, and so huge. Such a large, expansive area to cover. So yeah, it can be taxing if to say the least. But thank you, Melissa. Shout out to you. Much appreciated. Are there toll roads in Merida? No, there are not. The toll roads in Mexico are mainly like, let's say that you're driving from Merida all the way to Cancun, or you're driving from Merida to like another part of Mexico. You're taking the major highways, the main highways. You're driving cross country. That's usually when you're going to see tolls. You're probably going to see tolls in certain areas. You know what I mean? Like Mexico City, certain, just like you do in the East Coast in the USA, whatever. Things like that, but not out here. There's no tolls out here. What you do see, let's say that you're leaving Merida and you're going to Progreso, or which is the beach area, or you're leaving Progreso on certain days, certain hours, and you're coming to Merida. You're going to see checkpoints, DUI checkpoints, and just like you're going to see checkpoints all over Mexico. But a lot of these checkpoints, they're really there to just extort you out of some money. More than anything else, what I mean? Just like in the USA. Now, in the USA, when you go to these checkpoints, it's a lot different because, when they extort you there, they basically, ruin your life in many cases. They put you in jail, give you a record, it's a whole thing. But in Mexico, a lot of times the extortion is just basically you got to pay it right there. That's it. And you can be gone. Basically, you can take care of your DUI within a few hours or a few minutes, depending on your situation, who you are. I can go on and on. But, it's a very different. But you're going to find checkpoints, in Merida, outside of the city, in certain areas. 99% of the time, you have nothing to worry about. This is part of that safety. Why there's so much safety in this city and in this region. You're going to find checkpoints, as you're entering Merida, as you're entering the Yucatan, as you're entering the region. It is very, very heavily protected, from all the other dangers that are, surrounding the rest of Mexico. In other parts of Mexico, you're going to see checkpoints, or you're going to see tolls, in different areas. So let's say that you're driving through major highways. You're going to see tolls. If you're driving through, what we call other highways, non-toll highways, you're also going to see tolls, but you're going to see the tolls in the form of checkpoints. And these checkpoints are going to be either by police, the locals, or just a local faction or local village. So for example, let's say you're driving through the non-toll roads and you're driving through Mexico, which is not really recommended because you never know what you're going to stumble upon. And it could be dangerous in certain regions. But long story short, not always. You can always, in some cases there's, you can drive through a lot of the roads, in the cities, But anyways, what I'm saying is that you're going to be paying a toll one way or the other, is what I'm saying. And so whether you're paying the toll, to a toll booth and a government official, or you're paying it to a corrupt, police officer or police officers that are, setting up a illegal roadblock, or you're paying the toll or whatever, to a bunch of citizens that are just blocking the road. And, it's just people from the village, they're demanding money for you to cross for many reasons, because, that is their way in which they can collect taxes, because they don't have any kind of government there. But that's another story for another day. But anyways, long story short, that's really what you're really going to encounter more than anything else when it comes to like tolls. Do you encounter? Okay, Melissa's asking me, do I encounter a lot of snakes? No, no. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen a snake out here. In Florida, I see snakes all the time. But out here, I don't think I've seen one snake. But yes, there are a bunch of creatures out here. Remember, we are in the jungle after all. But again, coming from Florida, nothing to write home about. Okay, Now, if you're from other regions of the world or the USA or whatever, where you don't have a lot of dangerous animals or dangerous environment, yeah, it might be dangerous out here. It might be scary, the jungle, whatever. But if you're coming from Florida, I mean, again, you know the memes. You know how it works. Long story short, if you're coming from Florida, you know what I mean? Like, you're already coming from one of the worst areas. I mean, not worse in the sense of like, we have anacondas, we got sharks, we got bears, we got, was it Joe Exotic? We got tigers and bears. Oh my, we got, I mean, seriously, our wild animals, have guns, and have, and deal drugs and all that other stuff. But anyways, yeah, Florida. Florida's very rough. So compared to here, it's chill. The Yucatan is chill compared to Florida. Florida is hardcore. But yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, the whole driving situation out here is not that big of a deal, to tell you the truth. Driving in this region of Mexico is pretty lax, pretty chill, pretty, nothing to really write home about. Other parts of Mexico, depending on the region, depending on how it's going to be. But to me, again, a lot of similarities, in this region to like the upper northwest of the USA. So, when I used to drive in Seattle, what drove me crazy was the same things that drive me crazy here. Slow drivers, a lot of passive aggressiveness and just things like that. You know what I mean? But again, a lot better than having to deal with extremely aggressive drivers and having to deal with, you know what I mean? Just a litany of craziness. But anywho's. All right. So I think we're going to wrap this question up. We got another question we're going to be asking today. All right. So, shout out to everyone in the chat. Again, thank you so much for, all the donations. Shout out to Richard. Shout out to Teresa. Shout out to Greg. Shout out to all of you guys out there. You guys are the best. Yes, yes. So shout out to everyone. And shout out to Alex, which is the person that asked me this question for me to answer today. And I hope I answered it thoroughly. I hope I was, able to give a pretty good answer and, give some more details on what it is to drive out here and all that stuff. I'm glad I was able to help a little bit. But you already know, now it's time to say goodbye and go to another episode. And the next episode, the next live stream, okay, is coming up in a few minutes, okay, a few seconds, right as soon as we're done here. But the next live stream is our real estate land developments in the Yucatan, safe or not safe or whatever. There's another question, another topic a lot of people want me to talk about. So we're going to be talking about that next. Again, all you need to do is just go to my YouTube page, okay? Okay, just right here, as you guys can see on the screen, go to my YouTube page and then just click, scroll down and click on it. And I'll see you guys there. We're going to go there right now, all right? And we are going to start talking about this. Well, not right now, in a few minutes, all right? So everyone can take a few minutes break and have time to get over there. And we're going to be talking about this question because a lot of people, want to know what's going on with all this and what's going on with real estate and what's going on with all that, out here because it's it's a very important topic. And again, for anyone out there that wants to know how you can ask me a question yourself, because I'm sure some of you guys out there are wondering, hey, how can I ask you a question, Jose, so you can answer for me? Well, it's very easy. All you got to do is just click on the link that I provide in the chat. And I provide in the description of the video and in the comments section, and that will take you straight to my website, and it'll take you straight to this page on my website, and there's a video there where it explains everything, and just basically you reach out to me, send me an email, send me your question, and we agree on a donation amount, and then we just set up the question, and we answer these every Thursday. Every single Thursday I do 3 questions, and if you're going to go and look at the archive of all the questions that I've answered already previously, shout out to everyone out there that's always contributed. And shout out to everyone out there that's, always hanging out with us, as we do these. So you guys already know this is a way in which we can all help each other out. So, not just send a donation, but this is a way in which you can send a donation and get something back in return, get a question answered and also get a video tailor-made to you that you can now share and we can all share with the rest of the audience and we can all help each other out. So with all that being said, you already know the deal, guys. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to please like and subscribe and share, and check out all these other videos, you know, you're going to be seeing here, and all that other good stuff. And I'll see you in the next video, which is this one right here. So I'll see you guys there in a few minutes. I'll see you there in 8 minutes. All right, we're about to answer this question. I need to take a quick little breather. Lambo needs to go use the restroom, and we'll be live streaming in a few seconds, all right, answering this question. All right, I'll see you guys there, and I'll talk to you later. All right, see you guys in a few minutes. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's